Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cafecito en Conversation. I am your host, Domenica Az. Welcome, 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 and Happy New Year. We are kicking off the new year with Norma Darnell. She is my guest, and we have so much to talk about. So we're just going to dive in. Norma, thank you for being here. And how about you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Norma Darnell, and I have a podcast, and I'm a mom of two boys, and I recently started a trendy t-shirt company. And I'm a proud Latina. I just had to add that in there.
Of course, add it in there. I love it. Norm, I'm so excited for you to be here. Thank you for coming on the show and being open to this conversation. So in the spirit of Cafecito en Conversation, what is your favorite beverage?
I love iced latte with heavy cream and an extra shot of espresso.
Oh, that sounds so good. So I have to tell you that right now, you would think I would say cafecito, right? But it's going to be golden milk. I came across it a couple of months ago and I love it. It's turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger. And then, I heat up the milk, stir it in, and it turns the milk gold, obviously. And it's just so, so good. I had a little canelita on top, and it's like my go-to drink right now. But I think definitely prior to COVID, I was going to Starbucks a lot, pero ya me calmé. Stop. So I'm just excited to dive in. I think we have a lot of stuff to talk about. And, I really was excited to talk to you because I feel like lately there's been a lot of people that have crossed my path, a lot of moms that have really asked me a question that I feel really needs to be brought to the table. And that's like your heartstrings. When your heartstrings are being pulled and you're a mom, and then now adding the pandemic, like, what do you do? And so, it's a question that I feel takes a lot of work to answer, ¿verdad? But I think when it comes to being a mom, we can't forget to take care of ourselves, ¿verdad? Mm-hmm. And I've been using the metaphor of like when you're on the airplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can put it on your kids, because what good is it if you pass out and they're okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I love that. Oh, I love this subject because well, even for me a little bit before COVID, I think every mom goes through this transition of like you become a mom, and then you have to learn to connect who you are, who you used to be, and then who you are as a mom, and like learn to just combine them. And I think what happens is that sometimes we try to separate them. And then we just become all moms and all about, my children, and we get stuck in that identity, which is an important identity, but you're also you. And like you said, you first have to take care of yourself. So for me personally, I have a 2 and a 1-year-old. So they're very young, first of all, and very high maintenance. And so in that, I completely lost myself. And I remember one time looking in the mirror and I'm just like, I think I forgot who I am. And, to be honest, I was cranky. I was dealing with, a lot of anxiety. And then one day I looked at my children and I thought, I can, just because I've entered this season of motherhood and then, COVID with everything shutting down as well. Like, just because all those things are going around, that I'm not going to allow those things to put a limit on my dreams. So I actually then began to dream again and take care of myself and do those little things like spend that alone time or go, talk to friends, comb my hair.
Right.
If you're a mom, you're going to feel me on this. Comb my hair, um, put jeans on.
Right.
And what amazed me was that as I began to write down the dreams that I had, before, and just made those small steps to accomplish those goals and just balance also being a mom, I found that all that anxiety that I was feeling and that identity crisis, I
Right.
think I want to call it that, it just, it diminished. It was like, wow, and I'm a healthier mom, a healthier wife, a healthier Norma. So there is power in first taking care of us, because who we are, that is what we then pour out.
That's so true.
So I definitely just want to impart that to my children as well, that you can dream and nothing can stop you if you are determined enough to just do it.
No, I love it. I love it. Yes, girl. What was the thing that like how would you describe, or what was the moment that you felt like, wait a minute, I kind of lost myself a little bit? And how did you recognize that? And then how did you start to like move forward or move past it?
Wow, that's such a good question. uh, it is, girl. So I think I first, it, like I said earlier, actually, it sounds kind of a little out there, but when I looked one time in the mirror and I was like,
Okay.
my hair was dry. Like, I think it was like physically, I could see like the manifestation of like, you haven't taken care of yourself.
Mm,
So I think
okay.
when I saw it physically, like in front of me, it's like, wow, like you have put yourself way like at the end, way at the bottom. And so so then one of the things that I did was I looked kind of at, my schedule, because, we all know because of COVID with our children, we are stuck at home with them. And some,
Right.
moms out there have had a homeschool and all that. So I had to like look at my schedule and think like move things around to where I would have alone time. I talked with, my spouse, because he's my partner in life. And I'm like, hey, I need help. And these
Right.
are my needs. And I think we're also afraid to speak up to what we need. And he was so willing. He's like, yes, like I would love to just help you take more care of yourself and do what you need to do. And so then as I started to have kind of that alone time, that reflective time, I started to write down things that I could do, and also at the same time still stay at home with my kids. And so that's how I came up with the whole t-shirt company. And I did that because I love clothes, and how
Right. We
fun
all do,
to
girl. We all do.
that is true. We all I love clothes, and I could just design them for fun. And for right now, it's small, just so that I could have that balance of, hey, get my creativity flowing, but also be able to be, with my children. So kind of that, that balance, giving to both places. So.
No, I love that. Thank you. That's some really good advice and some really good tips on how to recognize that and just kind of move forward. And I think when you're able to also focus on like creativity and in a project, like in your case, you said t-shirts. I said that's also an opportunity to give yourself give yourself a little bit of a mental break where you're focusing on something else. So I always recommend that, like find that one thing that gives you that break, whether it be painting. You can probably see behind me if I move here a little bit, my blend is probably in the way. So the top two paintings on the screen are not mine, but the one with kind of mimicking Frida with the flowers on her hair, that is one of the smaller paintings that I painted. And so I found myself during the pandemic doing a lot of painting. And I also love painting with music, let music play, worship music play, and then I'll just kind of paint to the feeling and the emotion that kind of comes out. So that's also one of my ways to decompress. Yeah, you end up with the best paintings, and like before you know it, shapes and things start to evolve. So that's always something that I can recommend anyone just trying to figure out, where do I start, what do I do? And another thing that I like to do is also turn on candles in the morning. And I know when I always share this with my friends, they're like, Domenica, candles are for the evening. You can't even see them in the daylight. But there's something about just turning them on and having them near me, and then, having that smell that really gives me a sense of like calm, and I'm able to start my day in a good way. And so that's also another trick that I do to be able to, just start positive. And I want to talk a little bit about, there's so many things that you said that I want to talk about, but I want to know more about this t-shirt business. So what exactly do you do? Do you put images, quotes? Like how does that work?
Oh yeah, no, actually that's a great question, because so many people want to, dive into it a little bit. So pretty much like I said, I'm started off like with, okay, clothes. And there I try to use like motherhood quotes or spirituality quotes related to spirituality, and also just recovery, any form of recovery, mental health, addiction. So like I said, one of my goals is to keep it simple. As my kids get older, I definitely have other goals in mind to go bigger, but for now, I keep it, small and simple on Etsy. It's easy to make at home, but then for like designs, like actual real design pictures, I don't think a lot of people know this, but you can create an account with Redbubble.
Okay.
It's a print on demand company where there is no cost up front, because they use you to be the artist basically.
Yeah.
So you can go to this website and you can create, any designs, pictures, t-shirts, and then they print them for you and then they ship them to the customer. So then you get a small fraction of that, but basically I love that, because, we're talking about creativity, and it's like you get to be creative and then you get to have someone else do all that hard work, like the shipping and the printing and all that. So it's kind of like an outlet to work smarter, not harder.
Right. And how easy is it for any mom that's listening, or anyone out there that is like, you know what, I want to start doing something that I feel passionate about, or they have been thinking about it, it's kind of been a dream, or test the waters with, designing things for t-shirts or hats. And it really is an opportunity to have an opportunity to make some extra money and be able to contribute to family, or even to save up for other things. I always kid around that I say I didn't grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, but it just is a common thread in my life. I remember seeing, it was Oprah in San Jose. She came there like maybe 5 years ago. And that was something that it stood out on my mind, that she said, look for your common threads. And I was either making bracelets when I was younger, I was selling chocolates. If I was a Girl Scout, I probably would have been selling Girl Scout cookies, but I wasn't. And, there's always an opportunity where you can turn your passion to profit. So I absolutely love that you took something and you just ran with it, and you opened an Etsy store. So you're completely an Etsy shop owner, and I think that's amazing, because you can completely get creative with it. And I'm sure if anybody requests something, you can do it for them. Like, how fun.
Yeah, no, that too. I enjoy it too. And, for those that prefer to maybe use the platform of Redbubble. So there's a lot of other companies out there that are called print on demand, which is
Mhm.
they'll just print your designs for you and ship them for you. And they take care of
Right.
all the finances, all that. It's super simple. I spent like 7 hours on YouTube learning all the tips and tricks. So here's my crash
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
All you need to all you need to do is get it's called Canva, the Canva
Mhm.
app. So it is free, but if you want kind of fancier designs, pictures, all that, you pay,
For the updated.
$12 a month. And then you create a Redbubble account, and then you upload your designs from Canva. You switch them over to Redbubble. That's it. Because they do all the marketing for you.
I love
Redbubble.
that.
So, and then, Etsy is a little bit more complicated, but
Mhm.
still simple. If you want to just capture a different audience, I kind of just wanted to have two little side gigs just because
Right.
it makes me feel fancy.
Right.
No,
No, of course.
I want to attract just different audience, and so
Right.
with Etsy, same thing. You do the canvas designs, you upload the
Mhm.
pictures, and yeah, so
No,
anyone
I
can do
love it,
it.
girl. I love it. Own it. Like I heard that one of the first things that I learned about being an entrepreneur is that an entrepreneur always has 7 avenues of income. So 7 different ways that they can make money. So definitely I hear two, right? Etsy is one opportunity and then Redbubble is another opportunity. Even though you're making t-shirts for both, it is 2 different avenues, 2 different ways of putting your product out there, and most likely you have 2 different audiences. So I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, yeah, it's fun and easy. Love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think definitely for whoever's listening or if you're watching, there's always an opportunity to turn your passion to profit. And t-shirts is a great way, very cost effective, especially if you connect with a company that's print on demand for sure. And so there was another thing that you had said that caught my attention that I really want to talk about, do a little bit more of a deep dive. And that is like asking for help. Because I think as mothers, sometimes we kind of forget that, if we have that significant other that, we can lean on them and ask for help, and, or that, there's whatever your support system looks like. Why do you think that we kind of forget to do that?
That that is a great question. I think I can for myself, but I think a lot of moms struggle with this too. Is
Mhm.
that we have this idea that once we've entered motherhood, and then especially if we stay at home with our kids, we buy into this idea that we have to do it all, and
Right.
that you have to be superwoman, and that the only way that you are super mom or amazing is if you can do it all, and if you can do it all on your own. And I think also social media, people, outside
Mhm.
influences sent us the message that strong means you do it on your own.
Right.
You know you demonstrate confidence because you can do it on your own, and you're strong, and you don't show vulnerability. But I actually think the opposite. I think vulnerability is a powerful and beautiful thing. So and I was surprised when I really just when I came to my husband, and I'm like, I think this is what I need breaks, and I need this time during the week, maybe we can work that out. And just how willing he was. And he even said to me, like, something that I think is so valuable and important. He said to me, I've always wanted to help you. I just didn't know how. Like, I knew you were struggling,
Mhm.
but I didn't know how to help. I didn't know how you needed that help. And that is because, again, I also was giving that appearance of getting it all done, and I was getting it all done.
Right.
If it meant staying up till 1 a.m. doing laundry, I got it all done by myself. And guess what? Now my husband does laundry. So, um, no, but I mean, it's because it's just those little things of like, and really, to be honest, I'm glad you asked this question, because I noticed that as he started to help me more, or just
Mhm.
even my support system, as I allowed them and not try to be
Okay.
so controlling, and kind of let a little bit go of control of like, no, my children have to have this way, and you must do it that
Right.
way. As I kind of let go of that, and as I as I let my husband help me more, I realized that there was a little part of me that was like, oh, I kind of want to take over again, because I could do it so much better. And it just, and so I caught myself and took a step back, and I'm like, no, they want to help you. And you know what, Norma, your value as a person isn't based on how well you can just show everyone that you can do it all on your own. Just let them do it. It's just letting go, and
Right.
feels so good. So I definitely feel, the difference. I get more rest. And I just get that self-care in, and I am more present with my children as well. I noticed that too. Just
Right.
more present and more rested. So
Right. And I would think too that the feeling also, right, of being able to not take everything on and having that space to also do self-care. And then the bonus of it is being able to have that open space to show up more for your kids, right? As before, it was probably more easier to not have the energy or just feel like you didn't have the time. But now, by getting that extra help, you're able to now do this in a different way. So I think that's great. Thank you for being open to talk about that, because I feel like it's a very important thing to throw out there and be transparent. And hopefully anybody that's watching or listening, we plant that seed that it's okay to give ourselves grace. And as mothers, as wives, as sisters, as aunts, it's okay to say no to things, or to say that, you know what, right now I just need the space where I just need to work on myself and be me and figure out how that's going to look like. Because I think as females, we're naturally nurturers and we want to help, but then we forget about us, right?
yes. Yeah, that's true. That too.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I just think it's just so, like I said, just I was so amazed at how, my husband's like, I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. And I think sometimes that's true too. Like our support system, they might see us struggling, but they don't know how to help. So
Right.
how important it is to have, that communication as well.
Right.
Because
And I think that's too also when it comes to the power of our voice. We forget to use it, because as a simple, asking for help it's a very simple way to use your voice. And if nobody knows what you need, nobody's going to know how to help you. So I think that's a really great lesson to share, because I could think times when I'm just going, and I forget to, lean on other people and ask for that help. And it's like, oh, I could have done that sooner. I could have just said, that was easy. They said yes. I've worked with the Head Start community in early childhood education for so many years. And so I was exposed to moms, grandmas, a lot of females, a lot of different cultures. And I think especially being a Latino, it gives you a little bit of a cultural narrative that you can't ask for help depending on how traditional your family is.
that's true.
Yeah, and I think that's also something that I like to bring to the table as awareness, because um, being first generation Latina, a lot of this generation breaks a lot of things. They paved the way for a lot of things, because I remember I tease my mom. I tell her, that thinking is del año del caldo, and I try to explain to her, I'm like, let me fast forward a little bit for you. And she laughs and she recognizes now because she's heard me say it so many times, like, oh, okay, I'm not 2021 thinking, I'm thinking of what I grew up in. And I think that's also something else to recognize is the way that, a parent grew up in and the way their environment was, the year, they were exposed to. And that's hard. That's hard to remember that because I remember I would fight it a lot. And, I think I will be completely transparent. I feel like part of me always burning some type of food is because I fight. I fight the thought of being able to cook for whoever crosses my path, predominantly a future partner. And so it's funny because I recognize that a lot of me resisting cooking and being in the kitchen is because how many times she had to cook for my dad. And, it's something that we don't talk about and we don't put out there, right? That a lot of our conditioning and not asking for help probably comes from what we were exposed to and the subconscious narrative that is there. And when we recognize it and talk about it, we're able to break it, And I'm not saying like that it's all bad. I know I have a lot of friends that love to cook and be in the kitchen, and that's amazing because I'm most likely going to be at their house eating the food that they're cooking, right?
Me too.
Yeah, I just like the easier the dish I can make, like that's great because then there's no risk of burning it. But at the end of the day, it really does boil down to asking for help because there's no reason. I'm going to use me as the example, which I've done plenty of times. I go to YouTube, and look something up. I know there was tons of friends that had to FaceTime their mothers or their abuelitas to learn how to make tamales. Okay.
No.
Let's just be real. Let's just bring it, okay?
Yes.
And so, I laugh because lots of times when I would tell my mom, okay, I'm going to go and help you make tamales, she ends up kicking me out because she gets frustrated. And so going onto YouTube and looking, I think it's okay. It's a way of asking for help, right? Without asking. And so, there's many ways. I challenged myself this Christmas to make tamales de chocolate. I didn't know it was a thing. I had seen a post on Instagram and I followed the recipe on YouTube, and they added coconuts and walnuts inside, to do the stuffing. I was pretty proud. They were really good.
I would be proud too. It sounds delicious.
It was good. But I just thought it was funny that I saw post after post, friend after friend, like admitting that they had to call their mothers and ask for the abuelitas, ¿cómo se hacen los tamales? So, I think that's a great example of how we're just breaking those barriers and saying, hey, I want to keep this tradition alive. I don't know how to do it, but I want your help.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But when it comes to, is there any advice that you would give a mom out there to really start to really focus on self-care? Because one thing that I noticed that stood out to me that you said was when you looked in the mirror and you felt like, oh, and I know that one of the signs for me when it's like kind of like my own little wake-up call is when I don't do my nails. Because I always have my nails done. But when I feel like I have a stressed week, I like, for whatever reason, and things are going crazy, my nails, I stop painting them and they start chipping and kind of looking yucky. And so that's one of my signs. Do you have any advice or any tips that you can give anyone on what to look for?
Yeah, that's great. I think that, well, yeah, I mean, physically, I think is one. I mean, I think we all if we really take a moment to kind of reflect, we can quickly identify like, oh, like, well, when I do this, to me, this is a sign of stress. And we all
Right.
know, but I think sometimes we have to revisit it, right? We have
So true.
to
Yeah.
relook and re-examine and say, well, what are the signs, to look for? But I think definitely self-care, physically can look different for everyone. I like to be fancy. So I know that if I'm wearing the same yoga pants 4 days in a row, something is not right. But
Right.
that's one of them. But I think maybe also when well, especially if you're a mom, I think that one red sign to look for too that's important is when your children frustrate you more than usual. I mean, it's hard to deal with, but when you kind of feel like every little thing they do is just driving you nuts, that's another sign of, wait, I need to fill my cup.
Right.
I need to take a step back and, take a break or go to my creative outlet or eat a bowl of chips. Whatever, we all have, that thing that we run to that helps us. But yeah, I think, when that happens, when we feel like the tension, and I think sometimes we can feel tension in our bodies too. So when you're overly exhausted, sleep, I think, can be a big deal too, right? Your sleeping patterns, if you can't sleep,
So true.
that too. So sleep, and yeah, those are pretty much the red flags. But like I said, I think we all can have good insight into ourselves. I think we have to remind ourselves though to revisit those.
Right.
And I just would encourage people too to share that with, if you have a partner, to share those, with your partner, because that is another important thing that I did, was that,
Yeah, it's a good point.
I communicated that with my husband. I'm like, when the house is way too out of control, when I'm behind on a lot of things in the house, my anxiety level goes like, right? So because he knows that now, and we've kind of talked about it, and for him as well, like I want to know his as well, because like I said, I mean, it's a partnership, right? We're in this together. We're a team. Like, okay, you're on my team. I want to know from you as well. So we kind of discuss those, and actually we help each other before we try to help each other before we get to that point, if that makes sense. So he
Right.
helps me
Yeah,
before my
completely.
anxiety gets to a 10, because he knows if the house is way too messy, I'm gonna start to do that breathing. It's not gonna be good. So, he helps me, tells me to take a break, and I do the same for him. Like, we try to help each other before it gets to the point where it's escalated. So,
Mhm. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's always kind of good to hear, those little things of what we can pay attention to help us recognize them, right? And oh my goodness, Norma, I just can dive in so much more in this conversation. We haven't even touched on your podcast. But I want to honor your time, and we're coming to the end of our time together. So I want to give you the opportunity to share. Is there anything that you want to mention about what you're working on, about yourself, or that we didn't touch on with the audience?
yeah, so I am working on trying to have more content, for my podcast, because I just started that, as well, as you all
Woo!
know. Yes, in that recap, I just started. So, um, that's one of my goals right now, is
Okay.
to keep focusing, on content, and kind of, I don't have like a specialized niche per se, because I'm exploring, and I think that's okay. I think sometimes we
Yes.
have to explore. So I'm exploring. I love talking about motherhood, but I also love talking about food, and I love talking about dreaming big, and I love talking about, friendships. So I'm exploring, and I learned. I used to think like I had to be super like, you can't pursue your dreams until you have it all together. And you know what? I threw that out the window, and so I'm like, you know what? I want a podcast, and I don't know 100% what my niche is, but I'm exploring, and it's okay. Right. I'm starting, and so there I am. So
I love it. And I'm super excited. Well, we're going to be cheering you on, Norma. I just can't wait to be able to walk alongside you and see that project evolve and help you figure out, what your niche is, or be able to help guide it anyway. So obviously, that offer is there always. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I know that we're definitely going to have you back because we just got started at the tip of our conversation. And I know that there's so much more that we can dive into. But for now, let everyone know how they can connect with you too.
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse.
Okay.
Woo, if you're on Clubhouse. But on Instagram, I have 2 accounts going. You can find me as Norma Darnell. That's my personal account. You'll see lots of, you can find me there, but you'll see lots of cute boy pictures, baby boy pictures.
And that's okay. That's so
yeah, you'll see a little mix of the mom life, a little mix of about me, and then like the t-shirts. The handle on Instagram is Tease Everything.
Okay.
Because again, I'm like, I don't have a specific niche of attire that I'm going to. I have a little bit of like motherhood, recovery, I have a little bit of going on, just variety. So that's where you can find me.
Okay, love it. And so for everyone who is watching or listening, we will put Norma's links on the show notes. So definitely come back and look at the show notes so you can connect with her. But until then, thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation. Definitely continue the conversation. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We're there. Show us some love, and we will see you on the next episode of Cafecito and Conversation. So, Norma, thank you, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.